guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a crime film from South Korea, Korean language English subs, released in the year 2019, directed by Lee, and this film is called The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil. So The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil is about a serial killer who is terrorising the streets. The police have no real clues as to who this guy is, and so he seems to be killing at will. But that is until one night he attacks a mafia boss. Now this mafia boss is notorious for his brutality and his respect, and he ends up surviving this ordeal, but he refuses to cooperate with the police. And so he's actually seen this killer in the face, but he is actually going to try and deal with this by himself. But then when the detective has dirt on him and he threatens to go to the authorities and put him behind bars, this is where he reluctantly cooperates with this special investigative unit. Now this investigative unit agree with this crime family that if the police find this killer first, they're going to put him behind bars, but if the mob find him first, he's going to disappear forever. And so they have to trust each other in a very complicated situation, and whether or not they can stop this serial killer is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil. I couldn't help but feel that this movie should have been a masterpiece, because it definitely had the ingredients to be an absolutely fantastic experience, but unfortunately there was one major issue that prevented it from being up there with the likes of I Saw the Devil. And the reason why I say it had the ingredients to be such a great film is because the avenues of possibility were fantastic. You have police investigative films that you've seen over and over and over, but when they have to cooperate with the other side, this is where the avenues of possibility start to arise. And so this is unlike any other investigative film that you've seen. And so, okay, you've really broken down that barrier of the generic type. Where are you going to take us with this experience? And the majority of the experience is actually very good. I thought as though the situational sort of aspect of this movie was fantastic. I never really felt as though the police and the mob actually trusted each other and they had to team together to stop the serial killer. So not only are they tracking down a killer, but they also have to wonder whether or not they're going to betray each other. And so there's a lot of mistrust, therefore there's a lot of suspense. The curiosity levels are through the roof, and that maintains your interest from start to finish, and that's ultimately what you need in a film experience that goes for nearly 2 hours. You need that sustained interest, and I definitely feel as though Lee produces that interest through that unpredictability, because this is a generic sort of investigative film that we really haven't seen before. So it's definitely very interesting in the way that it goes about its business. I thought it was a fairly brutal film. It doesn't really rely on its violence. There's a lot of off-screen violence, but I thought the serial killer was actually quite curious, and when you actually see what this serial killer, who this is, I thought as though it had a really creepy sort of tone to him. And so there are twists and turns along the way that you would expect from a South Korean film, but I just thought as though that curiosity and the situational aspect of this movie was fantastic. And that's something you'd expect from South Korea, especially lately, when they're producing all of these really good films. You know, some of them aren't quite as good, but they're still interesting. And so South Korea are evolving storytelling in a way that it just breathes a new, it's a breath of fresh air within as something that's very tight and repetitive. And so that's definitely the best aspect of The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil, is that it does try something different. And so yeah, investigative films, I do like them, but as I said, this is a different sort of aspect, because there has to break down that barrier and they have to cooperate with those that they're trying to stop. And so you've got the law and those against the law, but when they team together, this is just a boiling pot. And so the emotions are running high, you don't know who to trust, therefore there's a lot of vulnerability. So the cinematography was excellent. I thought the acting was very decent. Lee plays the mob boss. I'm a massive fan of this guy. Fantastic actor. He's been in numerous Korean films. So if you're a fan of this actor, definitely watch his performance as this gangster boss. Thought he was very, very menacing, but he had a really strong, likable quality to him. So there's a lot of charm, and that's what this actor brings to his roles. That you've got a mob boss, whether it's a bodybuilder, there's just something a little bit different about him. He creates that sense of personality, which is something that I really liked. And so you have the continuity of the fight scenes that I thought was fantastic. There's a lot of action in this movie, and so if you go in there expecting a higher grade sort of South Korean experience, then this is a film that is definitely for you. But unfortunately, the reason why this movie isn't up there with the classics such as I Saw the Devil is because there is one ingredient that's missing, and that ingredient is the character development. I never really felt as though I was gravitating to anyone except Lee's character, and he was the mob boss. And so this is a world that's very foreign to me. So although I liked his performance, I didn't genuinely connect with him. And so the main character, especially the detective, I didn't really like him. So I always felt as though this movie trying to emulate the higher tier South Korean films, but it just doesn't have the character development to really reach that level. So it's a situational film, and the situation is great. As I said, two sides of the law are teaming up together to stop a serial killer, and there's a lot of mistrust, and so as far as a situational film is concerned, it's fantastic, but as far as an emotional film that really would have complemented that situational aspect very well, it's just missing. So I thought the characters weren't really that gone into, and so for a movie that nearly goes for 2 hours in a South Korean film, I just felt as though there's a little bit more time and attention to the details as far as humanity is concerned. I thought it would have made it a lot better, and there were just aspects of the film that were glossed over. I just thought as though this movie was taking shortcuts here and there. I have to be very careful not to give anything away, but you'll know what I mean, is that it just felt like there were aspects of this movie that were fast forwarded, and so the movie wants to be a situational film, but unfortunately it just neglects what makes an emotional sort of experience that I Saw the Devil was, or The Chaser. Those classic Korean films, you have a really entertaining situation mixed in with really emotional, in-depth characters, whereas the characters in this movie were lacking, and as I said, there was some shortcuts here and there that prevents it from being an absolutely brilliant film. But pushing that aside, as far as the overall story and the way it tells its story is concerned, it's very, very good. I would highly recommend it. Go out there and see it. I'm going to give Gangster, The Cop, The Devil 3.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.